Hello, this is Lori Miller with St. Clair County High School.
I'm Jenny Carden from Asheville Middle School.
And I'm Mary Morrow from St. Clair County High School. And today we're going to be giving you an overview of a professional development session that we've created with the topic of standardized testing. Now, standardized testing is such a huge topic that we wanted to narrow it down some, so we decided to focus on some of the misinterpretations of standardized test scores. And we have two main learning objectives for this PD. One, we want to make sure that teachers can recognize those misinterpretations, and two, we want to give them skills and strategies so that they can communicate test scores to parents. All right, so we got to have an icebreaker if we're going to have a PD. So we're going to use teacher's revenge, the paper airplane. How many times, have one of these flown across your room? And usually in my room, I ground them, but we're going to use them to our advantage today. So teachers will have yellow and blue paper on their tables, and they'll pick one, and they're going to write a word that they feel describes testing. It can be a definition, an expression, an opinion, just one word. And then they're going to fold up their paper airplane, and if people are having trouble, tell them not to worry about it. They can just wad it up and make a snowball. And then they're going to throw them, and then everybody's going to pick up one that landed near them. And then they're just going to hold on to it because we're going to get to it later. Okay, so now as we move into how are tests misinterpreted, I always like to start out anything trying to get a good laugh. And so there's a lot of that out there about how students sometimes misinterpret test questions. For example, like what ended in 1896? 1895. And there's tons of these out there. They're super funny. And so, but there is a point to this, and to lead into our next segment. If questions are misinterpreted, then can't test scores and data. So now Jenny and Lori are going to walk us through the three main types of misinterpretations of standardized test scores.
The first type of scores are grade equivalent scores. These are widely misinterpreted. It's important to keep in mind that grade equivalence does not mean grade level. These type of scores indicate the typical grade level of a student who obtains a given score. These scores are given in grade levels. For example, 2.6 means a grade equivalent of the 6th month of the 2nd grade. However, though they're expressed as grade levels, they are not indicators of what grade level a student should be in. And these scores are used to examine how a student performs compared to other students of the same grade. These scores are widely used, particularly in elementary schools, because they're useful in reporting growth in basic skills. Now, what are some of the misconceptions associated with grade equivalent scores? Let's take, for example, a student in the 5th grade who scores a 10.5 grade equivalent on a math test. This does not mean that that student can do 10th grade math. This does mean that 5th grade student can do 5th grade math as well as a 10th grade student would be able to do that same 5th grade math. So he can do it very well, but the child was not tested on 10th grade material, so it's not an indication they would do well in the 10th grade. For that reason, grade equivalent scores should not be used to determine grade placement. All right, limitations. Grade equivalents are based on attained scores only for students one grade level above and one grade level below the grade being tested. Beyond that, the scores are only estimates and therefore less accurate. Grade equivalents are only specific to that subject, which is another reason they should not be used for grade placement. Our hypothetical 5th grader may have scored well on the 5th grade math, but high school math is different, so the score is meaningless in predicting how he will do on it. Grade equivalent scores do not indicate which skills are mastered. They report growth, not mastery. And grade equivalent scores top out and bottom out. So they give only limited information regarding performance of children who receive extremely high or extremely low scores. That brings us to percentile ranks. These are easily understood and widely used. In fact, they're probably the most commonly used test scores in education. You must keep in mind, however, they're not percentage scores. Okay. They range from 1 to 99, with 50 being average. They compare one child's performance with that of other students of the same grade level or the same age level. A percentile rank of 50 means the student scored as well or better than 50% of the same age or grade level peers from the norm group. And this is why the scores only range from 1 to 99. The student cannot do better than themselves, so you can't achieve a 100%. And since these scores are comparisons between peer groups, They're useful when selecting students for college placement or in a specific program.
Okay, and there are some misconceptions that go along with percentile ranks, and we use that example again of a fifth grade student. Fifth grade student scored in the 65th percentile rank on a science standardized test. That does not mean that the student got 65 questions correct. That's what a lot of people think of when they see that 65. That also does not mean that the student made a D. When we think about our traditional scoring, a 65 would be a D, but that is not what that means here. What it does mean is that the student scored as well as or better than 65% of the students tested. Some limitations of percentile ranks: it does not indicate the number of correct questions. The differences between similar scores will be less significant than the percentile ranks indicate. What that means is two students may seem like they're very far apart in percentile ranks, but if you actually looked at their raw scores and looked to see how many questions they got correct, they could actually be very similar. When you use percentile ranks, 10% will always score in the top, 10% will always score in the bottom. So no matter how well the students did, there are going to be 10% of the students who are going to be at the bottom. When you use percentile ranks are used with norm reference test. So you always have to consider how well the testing group matches the norm group. If it doesn't match up very well, then your data is not going to be very valid. And it does not indicate which standards have been mastered. It only it compares students to other students, but it doesn't tell you which standards have been mastered. And then again, equal differences between percentile ranks do not necessarily indicate equal differences in achievement. Then we have standard scores. Standard scores are very mathematical in nature. They are derived, it is a derived score that expresses how far a raw score is from some reference point. That reference point sometimes is the mean, sometimes it's a 100. Standard scores do compare student performance to that of others in the same grade. There are different types of standard scores. There are stay nines. A stay nine is a 9-point standard, basically where you take the standard scores and you convert them to a single digit. There are Z-scores. In a Z-score, it's just a specific kind of standard score where your reference point is the mean. And standard scores allow for easy comparison of scores between students. The limitations of standard scores is basically they're difficult to understand. If you're not a math person, if you're not comfortable with the statistics, you're going to have a hard time understanding them. And then they're also very difficult to explain to parents who, again, don't have a math background. The other methods, the grade equivalents, the percentile ranks, they're more easily understood. They basically will give you the same information and can give you an accurate assessment of where the student is.
Okay, so now moving on to the activity. We're going to have a warm-up before we start our main activity, and it's going to involve our paper airplanes. So what we're going to do first is everybody's going to find a partner. If you have a blue plane, you're going to find somebody that has a yellow, yellow, blue. So we have one yellow, one blue. And then you're going to unfold your plane and find your word. Mine is challenge. And then you're going to have a brief, maybe 2-minute conversation with your partner using only that one word. So I'll have to come up with different ways to say challenge. I mean, there's challenge and then challenge and challenge. There's so many different ways to say one word. Why are we doing this? Well, get these partners talking, get a good rapport going, get people up, moving around, you know, and being active. Now, our main activity, we are going to put our knowledge to the test, really. So if you have a blue plane, you're going to be a teacher, yellow plane, you're a parent, and then we've pulled in some of the examples from our textbook, some scenarios, and some test data. And so what we're going to ask the pairs to do is walk through this process, playing the roles of teacher and parent. And so then we'll switch up, and so everybody gets to be teacher, everybody gets to be parent. So teachers are going to actually use this knowledge now and apply it to a situation that they may encounter. And this will lead us into our kind of wrap-up phase of our presentation. So we'll make sure we give time for people to ask questions, comments, and hopefully we can get somebody, at least one pair, to get up and share their scenario, being teacher and parent. And then we're going to pass out the rubric and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to fill that out so that we can learn what we can, you know, improve on if we give this presentation in the future. And then to just wrap it up, we're going to, end with a laugh. It's great to start with a laugh and end with a laugh. So here's a great cartoon that I think anybody that's involved with testing can understand. So hopefully after this session, teachers will have more skills that they can use to talk to parents about test scores and get rid of some of those misinterpretations and misconceptions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.